So last time we went deep on every active collection and the Armory, and once I've done that, I only had one question. How do I know which of these will actually go up? Today we answer that properly by looking at the inactive collections and using them as the crystal ball for what's live right now. We pulled prices from Price Empire, factory new supply counts from CS Float, launch and removal dates from patch notes. 30 plus inactive collections, one goal. Figure out which new skins have potential to grow. Before we start throwing collection names around, let's set the rules. We only compare collections with the same trade-up ladder, classifieds to classifieds, coverts to coverts. We only look at factory new skins. Consistent lengths, same as last video. We compare on total FN supply at freeze, not drop rate. A collection that drops slowly for 4 years ends up with more FNs than a collection that drops quickly for 4 months. What matters is the final number when Valve turns the tap off. If the dataset doesn't pack it, we don't say it. And player counts matter too. A skin that dropped to 500,000 concurrent players in 2019 is not the same as one dropping to 1.4 million in 2025. Now, let's start with the most misunderstood category, the old discontinued drop collections. Bank, Italy, Lake, Original Train, Safe House, Dust 2, 2018 Nuke, 2018 Inferno. These were the weekly drop pool before we had the word weekly drop. Big caveat, almost none of these are a clean, frozen low player era reference. Bank, Italy, Lake and Original Train stayed in drops until April 2025, when Ascent, Boreal and Radiant replaced them. Safe House, Dust 2, 2018 Nuke and 2018 Inferno only came out of rotation in January 2026. So their FN supply numbers include years of CS2 era player counts. The FN pools are enormous. Bank classified alone sits at 221,000 factory new and still trades for $7. Dust 2 classifieds 112,000 each, $2. These are telling you one thing. At scale, weekly drop classifieds don't hold value. The only weekly drop classified with genuine FN scarcity is Militia. One skin, frozen since 2018, has only 54 factory new skins. It averages $1,500. But Militia was a niche map almost nobody grinded at the time. Low supply is fine. Low supply with nobody wanting it is just a dusty shelf. My honest takeaway here is that old weekly drops don't give us a clean price prediction for any of the new weekly collections. If Valve will keep them in game, as they did with some previous collections then, they're doomed. But I personally think they will not. I think they are closely monitoring the amount of printed supply, and my guess is that they'll also rotate some of these soon, but only time will tell. I will buy some of these skins. I love the way some of them look like. Now let's talk about where the real money lives, the Operation Map Drop collections. When you check the prices for Norse, St. Mark and Canals, it feels less like buying a game skin and more like calling your bank to ask about a mortgage. For players that were not around back then, these were not free drops. You needed the operation pass, usually between $6 to $15, and then you either grinded missions for stars or bought more stars outright. So the filter was not just do you play CS, it was do you pay, grind and care enough to redeem this specific collection. That filter is the scarcity engine, and as you can see on screen, the operation coverts fall into pretty clear buckets. The Ultra Scarce bucket is under 1,000 factory new skins. These are actual coverts like Medusa, Akihabara Accept, Imminent Danger and Welcome to the Jungle. Tiny FN pools and prices that look completely detached from reality, in a good way if you already own one. Then you have the iconic 1,000 to 2,000 skins bucket. This is where the big names live. Wild Lotus, The Prince, Gungnir and Havocs in living color. I don't need to read every number here because you can see them, but the takeaway is simple. Once a good covert freezes in this range, the market starts treating it like a trophy. And even the next bucket, around 2,000 to 5,000 skins, is still extremely strong. Dragon Lore, Gold Arabesque, Desert Hydra. Different eras, different designs, but the same basic story. Fixed supply, good demand, price keeps climbing. Classifieds follow the same logic, just with a wider supply band. Poseidon, Hot Rod, Hydroponic, those are not coverts, but they show that a legendary collection can pull even its pink skins into crazy territory. Most strong operation classifieds live somewhere from a few thousand to low tens of thousands in factory new. That's the range we need to keep in mind when we look at today's Armory collections. So the playbook is clear. Paid access, short window, limited final supply, and the hero skin people actually want. That's what creates collections that don't just survive after removal, they become the benchmark. Alright, so how does this apply to what's still live right now? Let's start with the coverts, because this is where the comparison actually becomes useful. As you can see here, LongDog is sitting in that same low thousands bucket as some of the serious operation coverts. It's not exactly a Gungnir, let's not get silly, but the supply is in that neighborhood, while the price is nowhere near it. And because Train 2025 has already been announced as leaving Armory, this supply should freeze very soon. CMYK is the other interesting one. Graphic design is already gone, so that FN number can only grow through trade-ups. On the overlay, you can see it sits very close to gold Arabesque in supply, but not in price. That's the gap that makes it worth talking about. Be the Monster is different. The number is good, the skin is popular, and the price actually lines up pretty well with its closest operation comp. The problem is that Overpass 2024 is still active, so the supply keeps growing. I like the skin, but I don't want to pretend it's discontinued when it isn't. And then there's Sport & Field's M4A1S Fade. Beautiful skin, amazing finish, but look at that FN supply compared to the others. It's not even playing the same scarcity game. That's why I would treat it more like a demand skin than a supply shock skin. At classified tier, the same logic applies. Train 2025 and graphic design are the cleanest comparisons because their FN numbers sit in the same rough band as strong Riptide era classifieds. Overpass and Sport & Field are higher supply and still active, so I would be more cautious there. So for Armory, the question is not which skin looks expensive. The question is, once Valve shuts the tap off, what final FN bucket does it land in? And does the community actually care about the skin? Alright, one more angle before the playbook. What actually makes an inactive collection get talked about 5 years later? 3 patterns hold every time. 1. Short active window, which translates directly to a small final FN pool. Every legendary mat drop collection, Norse, CMYK, Canals, Ancient, Havoc, Gods and Monsters, ran under 170 days and ended up with covert FN pools under 2000. 2. A standout signature skin. Norse had AWP Gungnir, CMYK had AK-47 Wild Lotus, Canals had AWP The Prince, 2021 Dust 2 had the gold Arabesque. The collection rides on the hero covert. 3. The player base plus the paywall. November 2019 CS averaged 450 to 600,000 concurrent, and only pass buyers were grinding. Today, we regularly push around 1.5 million. I've checked Web Archive and CS's website was reporting around 20 million unique monthly players in 2019, compared to over 34 million today. Quick side note, when you see Gungnir at 13,000 and LongDog at 1,100 with comparable FN supply, don't assume LongDog is the next Gungnir. Gungnir's ceiling is also about its design, its operation heritage, and 6 years of CS2 era nostalgia baked in. LongDog has the math. Whether it gets the story is another question. Scale your expectations, don't scale the hype. Okay, the playbook. Number 1 for me is Train 2025 LongDog, because the final FN bucket is promising, the collection is about to leave, and the price still sits below most comparable frozen coverts. Number 2 is graphic design CMYK. This one is already frozen, which I love. No guessing about future printing, no maybe Valve keeps it around. We can still do trades for it, but we can technically calculate how many will add to the total supply. The gold Arabesque comparison is right there on screen, and the price cap is still interesting. Number 3 is the classified tier from Train 2025 and graphic design. Less sexy than the coverts, sure, but the FN buckets are clean and the prices are still far below the older operation examples. These are probably the more realistic buys for most people. Number 4 is Be the Monster. I like the skin, I like the demand, I like the supply bucket, but Overpass 2024 is still active, so for now it's not a supplies frozen play, it's a watchlist play. And number 5 is the weekly drop classifieds, Ascent, Boreal, Radiant. They can be fine cheap holds if you like the skins, but don't force Operation Collection math onto them. If Valve keeps them dropping too long, the thesis gets weaker every week. That's the video. Inactive collections are basically CS2's market archive. They show us exactly what a final factory new supply looks like after the drop tap shuts off, and what prices that supply supports. Match the ladder, match the FN bucket, sanity check the story, and you can put reasonable numbers on anything still live today. If this helped, smash the like, subscribe, drop your picks in the comments, and see you in the next one.